So I'm glad that you're here, and if you are new today, or if it's been a while since you've been here, I just want to welcome you to come to our church. And I have a question for you first. Have you guys ever been somewhere where you just feel like you were a little out of place, or you didn't belong, and maybe it was like even your own family event, or maybe it was someone else's family, or maybe it was like with people you kind of knew but didn't know, and you were there, and you're just like, I don't know, I just feel like I just don't really belong. It's kind of awkward, and I'm kind of uncomfortable. Anyone ever felt that way before? Yeah? So I had an opportunity to really feel this a couple years ago, and I was invited to this event, and it was with another family and friends, and it was nobody in the state, so none of you, because every time I've been to your guys' house, it's been amazing. But I went to this celebration, and I think I was supposed to be there, in a way. I was pretty connected in some way. And I went there, and it was people were outside, and people were inside the kitchen, and people were in the living room, and they were celebrating. And, I got introduced here. This is Tera, and this is blah, blah, blah to everyone. And everyone was nice, and they smiled at me. And then that was kind of it, because I was like, okay, now what do I do? Because I had no one to talk to. And I was like, this is really uncomfortable. I don't know where I'm supposed to go. Maybe I'll go in the living room, and I'll sit on the couch. And I still didn't have anyone. I'm smiling. I'm not like smiling, talking. And then I was like, this is so embarrassing. So I get out my phone. Maybe I can pretend like I have something important to do. But you can't look at your phone, because that makes you feel like you're being rude, right? You don't want to talk to people. Oh, I got to put my phone back. I don't know what to do. I just really didn't feel like I belonged. I didn't know what I was supposed to do. It was uncomfortable. Finally, after maybe like 30 minutes, I couldn't leave. I would have left, but I couldn't leave. After about 30 minutes, someone calls me over and says, hey, come sit by me and talk to me. And I was like, I feel a little bit better about that. So Pastor Tag talked about belonging a couple weeks ago, if you guys were here, talked about the church and our church, and how the church isn't just a building, right? The church is us, God's people that love him. And so even when you're out in the community, you can be that church, right? And so we talked about how these are kind of the steps that it goes along. Is the first thing is that we want people to make people feel like they belong, right? And so that's the first thing, is when you meet a new person or whatever, even if you're out in the community, you want to make them feel important and loved and they belong. If someone comes for the first time in our church, you want them to feel like they belong here, right? Oh, I got to tell you, the first Sunday that we were here, I was a little nervous. I met some of you because you guys helped unload our stuff at the house. But the first Sunday that we were here, this girl runs up to Taylor. And her name was Tera, by the way, which is a pretty cool name. But Tera was her name. Okay, not me, Tera. I don't know if you guys. And she runs up to Taylor, and she says, Taylor, help me make coffee. And I thought that was pretty cool, because, she didn't really know us all that well, and she's like, Taylor, help me make coffee. I was instantly felt like, hey, we are part of the family. If we are helping make coffee, we are part of the family, right? And so really important that you make people feel like they belong. And once you do that, once they feel loved and valuable, then they're just like, wow, this person really cares about me. Do you remember that, Taylor, by the way? Okay. This person really cares about me, and they genuinely love me, and they're making me feel important. And then they're like, and they just keep talking about this Jesus, right? And I really think that Jesus is making a difference in their life. I'm like, I truly believe it. I can see it. And then they're like, I believe it so much that I want to be a part of that, and I believe. And so they accept Jesus, and then pretty soon, because it's not us that does the work that changes us, it's God, right? And so God starts changing them and helps them to become the person that God intended them to become. And so that's kind of what we're going to talk about today, is just about belonging. And if we want, just want you to know you're an amazing church. And I'm just so glad that we're a church that loves people and that is just be friends. I know we've had a lot of people come into our church, and guess what? They come back to our church, and that's because you guys are amazing. And so we're going to talk about belonging, and if we're going to be a church that helps people feel like they belong, these are some of the ingredients that we're going to have. And all of this is done in love, okay? So the first ingredient is grace. We are going to be a grace-filled church. And the second ingredient is compassion. And compassion isn't just loving, it's like passion in action. So we're going to have so much compassion, it's going to come out. We're going to be doing compassionate things for people. And the third ingredient is communion. And we're going to talk about communion in a couple different ways. If we're talking about communion with people that we may not know, that may not know Jesus, it might be called a friendship. We're going to start friendships. We're going to start relationships with other people. And so those are the three ingredients that we're going to be talking today. And my first question for you is, who does God want us to show this grace, compassion, and friendship to? Who are we to invite to church? Who are we to share the gospel message to? And who are we to make feel like they belong? So who is this? And Jesus gives us an illustration of the kingdom of heaven in the parable of the wedding banquet. And a parable is an illustration that God used to show and help us understand. Don't you love that he is always giving us examples so that we can relate and understand? So here's the wedding banquet parable. The parable of the wedding banquet, Jesus spoke to them again in parable, saying, the kingdom of heaven is like a king who prepared a wedding banquet for his son. Okay, so his son getting married, got married, and now here is party time. Here is celebration. He's prepared this. Now who is he going to invite? Go to the street corner, the king says, and invite to the banquet anyone you find. So who did he invite? Yeah, everyone, anyone you find. So the servants went out into the streets and gathered all the people they could find, the bad as well as the good, and the wedding hall was filled with guests. I love that. Like, you were just to go invite anyone. He didn't say, hey, I want you to go, and if you think they want to come to the party, invite them. Or he didn't say, hey, I want you to go out, but if they're talking crazy, maybe don't invite those people. Or, if they stink really bad, maybe don't invite. He's like, you invite anyone, the good and the bad. It's like this come as you are attitude, right? Come as you are. Did you know that, I know for a lot of people that haven't been to church or in a specific church, one thing that is really on their mind is, I don't know how to dress, and I don't know what I'm supposed to wear, and I don't know what I'm supposed to sound like, and I don't know what to do. And this is like, no, it doesn't matter what you wear clothes, that's good, but come as you are, right? That's what Jesus cares about. He cares about you just are coming in here, and you don't have to get your lives worked out. Well, what if I cuss in front of your pastor? That's fine. Our pastor will still love you, right? Still love you. Come as you are. Come as you are. Attitude. And then another parable I thought was kind of cool, looking at it in a different way. How many of you guys are familiar with the parable of the sower? Okay. So another parable, another illustration that God uses the farmer that is sowing the seed onto the path, onto the weeds and the thorns, onto the rocky soil, and onto good soil. And when he's sowing those seeds represent the message, the gospel message, right? Jesus loves you. Jesus came to save you. Jesus wants to be a part of your life. This is the gospel message. And he says when you throw it onto the path, when the farmer threw it onto the path, the birds just came and ate the seeds away, right? And so it's kind of like maybe the message, you're giving the message, and it's like one ear and out the other. It's like, I heard it, but it didn't really mean anything. And then you got the weeds, and that could be like, okay, you're sowing, you're sharing this message, and the person that's hearing it is pretty excited. Okay, I want to hear about the Jesus. But then all the other things in their life is just kind of choking it out, right? And they're just like, all of a sudden, Jesus isn't important anymore. And then you have the rocky soil where it's like, someone could be really excited to hear about Jesus, but then what do I do next with that? Oh, I guess I'll just go and live my life how I usually live it. And then you have the good soil. The reason why I brought this parable up to you is what's super cool that I didn't think about before is the farmer sowed the seed on all four of these. The farmer didn't just, in the parable, go around and, where's the good I think this person's going to come to church. Maybe I'll talk to them, right? They're just like, you tell everyone. It doesn't matter where they're at. It doesn't matter if they look like they're not going to listen to you. You just share the gospel to everyone, right? Isn't that cool? You just sow the seed. Let God worry about the soil, because we don't know what's going to happen. The next part is friendship. We need to build friendships. If we're able to help others feel like they belong, we need to get to know them. So an example for that would be, I'm going to use Pastor Tag as an example. So we came 7 years ago, and Pastor had some experience before he came, like did a lot of funerals and sermons and weddings and events, and he knew how a church ran, So he could have said, hey, I know this. I'm going to come to this church, and I'm going to do what I think is exciting. But that's not what Pastor did. You know what he did? He came, and he's just like, I want to get to know the people. I want to get to know this church. I want to get to know the DNA. I want to know what they like, what activities they like, what works for them, what they don't like, what's hurt them in the past, where they want to go. And so instead of just coming in and saying, hey, I know how to do this, he's like, what do you guys, I want to step in where you guys are. And that's how you guys, I think, right? You like him a lot, right? That's how you guys are like, wow, I trust this guy. Like, I trust him, and he really genuine loves us. And I know that. And so that's the first thing that we need to do, is we need to get to know people, and we need to listen to them in the same way. I'm reading this book called Unchristian, and David Kinnaman did a survey with actually millions of people that were considered not Christians. And the reason why he wanted to survey them all is because he wanted to know, what do unchristians think about Christians? Well, why would he want to know that? Well, because he wanted to know how to love them. He wanted to know how to minister them. He wanted to listen to them and figure out how he could minister to them. And so a few of the things, I had 3 of them that I thought were kind of interesting. The first thing is, unchristians think Christians have an agenda before they will listen. And so maybe some people think, all they want to do is get me to church or believe what they want to believe. They're not really listening to me. And if you've ever been around somebody that maybe believes differently than you, if you go up to them and you're like, hey, can I tell you about my church? Because your church, let me just tell you what I think you should believe. That's not going to be very loving, right? But if you're like, hey, can you tell me more about what you believe? Like, what do you believe in Jesus? You don't believe in Jesus? Can you tell me what you do believe in? Do you believe, what do you believe in the afterlife? What do you think? What's your heart? Why do you believe that? If you start listening to them and building a relationship with them, that's what's going to matter, right? And then the other one, sorry it's so dark in here. I think Pastor Tag tried to warn me about, I don't know what color I was supposed to make it. But anyway, unchristians felt like Christians want to be right more than a relationship. I can see kind of how this can happen, because it's like you have this relationship with Jesus and you are so excited about it, and like the Bible is like right there. It's like truth, right? And if someone doesn't know it, you're like, I just want to share this with you because I know what it means in my life. But I think what speaks louder, and don't get me wrong, we are going to be sharing truth. We're going to be sharing the message of Christ. But what speaks louder to people is that we want a relationship with them, that we want to love them, that we care about them no matter what they believe. We truly love them. And the rest is going to come. Are you with me? I can't tell. There's some days that I feel like everyone's tired. But want more. Okay, and I thought this was interesting. What stood out to unchristians about Christians is what Christians shouldn't do instead of who Christians are. And I got to back up and I got to say, you could be loving someone, wholeheartedly loving someone, doing everything the right way as a Christian, but we do have an enemy that's going to twist and have other people perceive things differently, right? And so we just need to keep loving them no matter what. But okay, so what stood out is what Christians shouldn't do instead of who Christians are. The way that I kind of saw this is Jesus. If you think about Jesus' ministry, what stands out to you? To me, his love, like his miracles, his healing, his forgiveness, that he, like other people were more important than he was. You know, his humbleness. That just instantly, his love just stands out to me when I think about his ministry. If I think about the religious leaders in the Bible, what stands out to me is like laws and black and white and judging and all that, right? And we don't want to be that way. And I'm not saying we are, but isn't it good to get to know how people feel inside? Because even if their feelings aren't right, they're still feelings, right? So I'm going to share with you a story about Megan. Megan is actually a friend of my sister-in-law's, and I want to share her story because it kind of fits very well, actually, with this message. Megan, she was involved in a lot of drugs and alcohol. She ended up getting pregnant with her boyfriend's baby, and it was really hard for her to know that she was pregnant because she wasn't really wanting to stay with this guy. And she went through some tragedy, and she had some really hard moments. And here's Megan. She's getting ready for Easter Sunday. So Megan has been invited to church by her senior English teacher 2 times, one on Christmas Eve service and one on Easter Sunday. So she's like, okay, I'll go. Megan's like, I got to get into my Sunday best. So this is her Sunday best. You see her whole belly is showing, right? And her big question for people is, how would you treat this girl if she came to your church? She asked that to a lot of people. And so I'm going to share with you her experience of what she had when she went to church. Megan said she felt loved and welcome there, even though she noticed many people there she had been treated badly. So in the community, she had probably burned some bridges, but they just smiled and welcomed and acted as though she had a clean slate with them. At Easter Sunday service, I was approached by a woman and asked if I had had a baby shower. I had no idea what a baby shower was. It sounded strange. I told her no, and then she told me that she would fix that. I was invited to a huge house on a hill overlooking a ranch. I had been there once before. It was the home of my English teacher, and she had taken our class there on a free day to eat pizza and play games. I cannot believe it. There were dozens of women out there, and they had all brought giant bags and packages of baby items. There were diapers, clothing, blankets, toys. They had even purchased a playpen and other large items like a bouncer seat and a baby tub. Many of them shared Bible verses with me, and I had never really been into the whole religious thing, but the words they shared made me so much sense to me, and they offered me hope and peace in such a crazy time. Amazing, right? So Megan was shown grace, right? She had hurt people in the community, and they were just like, we just love you no matter what. We're going to treat you like as if it didn't even happen. And I don't care if you're pregnant out of wedlock. That's okay. I'm going to love you as if nothing happened, as if you're so important to us. And then compassion. I mean, like, this is her second church experience. So really, first time in a long time, she's going through the doors, and someone's like, I want to throw you a baby shower. Isn't that cool? This compassion, and then all these ladies coming and not just bringing like little, I mean, it's cool to have little outfits, I'm not saying that, but I mean, they brought big toys. Like, how can we show this girl that we love her? And then they shared Bible verses with her, and not like, oh, so this Bible verse says you shouldn't have had sex. Okay, I just had to say that, you know? I mean, like, Bible verses, I love you, God loves you, there is hope for you, we love you, we are here for you. Is that not amazing? And then you have the friendship of the teacher that invited Megan to the service. Isn't that pretty cool? And so Megan was saved by grace. Megan is doing some amazing things. Talk to Vicki if you want to know more about Megan and her story and what she's doing for God right now. But she was saved by grace. And so, in the same way, Zacchaeus, I think of Zacchaeus, Zacchaeus was a tax collector, and he was not nice to people, and he was stealing people's money. And I was just imagining, here's Jesus speaking, and like looking over and like, is that Zacchaeus in the tree? like, wow, Zacchaeus is listening to me. Well, I'm going to take this opportunity and I'm going to invite myself to his house, right? And so here's Zacchaeus, and Jesus is loving him, showing grace to him, just coming over and saying, I want to start a relationship. I want to start a friendship with you. And all that love is like, wow, I think I believe in you. And then it becomes, hey, I want to give my money back. I want to give my money to the people, right? So it's belong, believe, and become in Zacchaeus. Wow. This story came up this week, and I was just like, woo. Like, if you've haven't heard Hosea in the Bible, you'd be like, is you sure that should be in the Bible? I don't know. But here is God, and he's like, Hosea, now this isn't a parable. This is really what happened. Hosea was a prophet. And God said, Hosea, I need to use your life as an example so I can show my people how much I love them. And so back then, at this period of time, his people, Israel, God was loving them. He had saved them over and over and over again. I mean, really saved them from the enemies, giving them they have been through a lot of history. I don't know if you've ever really loved someone and then had someone turn their back on you after you've given them so much love. It hurts, right? And his people are just like just being unfaithful to God. And it's just like, how am I going to get your attention? And so, like, Hosea, here's what I want you to do. I want you to marry Gomer, a prostitute. You want me to marry a prostitute? Yes, Gomer, a prostitute. I want you to have kids with her. And each time they had a child, God had a specific name to show what Israel was doing. And so Hosea says, okay, God, I love you. I will. And he loved Gomer. I mean, with all his heart, he loved her. And I can imagine Gomer not understanding this love because she has not been treated very good by a lot of men, right? I don't understand this love. In fact, Gomer was unfaithful and went back a few times to different men and was unfaithful. And Hosea was like, I still love you, Gomer. I still love you. I'm still here for you. I'm still giving you gifts. I love you. And God is like, this is how I feel. This is how I feel about my kids. I don't care what you've done. I don't care where you are in your life. I don't care how much you've sinned. I don't care what you're doing now. I don't care how unfaithful that you've been to me. I'm going to love you, and I'm going to be here for you no matter what. That is the love that God has for us, and that's the love that we're going to be sharing to everyone else in the world, right? Amen? Exciting. I got to see what time it is so I know how much time I have. Thanks. So, friendship. We need to start building relationships with people. Communion. Communion is us. We are the body, right? We are the church. I feel like this church is amazing when it comes to loving people. I want to go deeper. Do you guys want to go deeper? I want us to go deeper, even with each other. Maybe we need to go around and just ask people, how are you really doing? Because we're really good at loving people, right? How are you doing? We need friendships. I'm going to share, I didn't know if I was going to share the story or not share the story because it's kind of like, it's hard to talk about yourself up here because then you're like, woo, I don't like it. But a couple months ago, I don't know, I had this feeling like I was alone and that I needed someone. And I was like, where is this coming from? Because I have all these friends and I have all these people that are loving me. And I'm just like shooing it away. Where in the world? I mean, like literally, I started bursting out in tears and I'm like, what in the world? I didn't know. And I was shooing it away. And it just kept coming back and it kept coming back. And then I was like, oh God, you're the only one I need, which, God is the only one we need. But I'm like, I don't need anyone else. I just need you. So I'm going to shoo this feeling away. And then I started understanding that this feeling that I was having was actually coming, I really truly believe it was coming from God. He was giving me a message. I still don't understand all of the message, but he was saying, you need people. You need to share your burdens with people, right? You need not just friendships, but deep friendships. When you're hurting, you need someone to be praying for you, right? Do you guys agree? Do people want that? Do you guys want that? And so, I'm not quite, I don't really know how that all works, but I was like, okay, I would love that, God. I actually went to people and said, I need you. I need a friend, and I need this, and don't get me wrong, you guys are all such awesome friends. That's why it's so weird to say this. But like, I needed something a little deeper. I needed to share my burdens with people, and I wasn't doing that. And so I guess I just encourage us as a church, find someone. That's why small groups are so good. Find someone that will share your burdens with you and your celebrations, someone that can pray with you, someone that can be, I know there's people in here every week that are like hurting, but then they don't talk to anyone about it, right? And so share your burdens. That's why we're all here and looking at you guys, and you guys are so full of love, and I know that we want to share. There are people in this church that don't know each other. Is that crazy? So let's get to know each other. I just encourage all of us, like if you're like, oh, this is so embarrassing, but like that person has been at church for 10 years and I still don't know their name. That is why we do Name Tag Sunday. You have, once a month, you have those names on. So put your name tags on. Get to know someone. So I just wanted to encourage you. And I just wanted to end with this last thought. There's some awesome verses, but we'll go. Lord, let them see you in me. I just want to end with this last thought that every conversation and every action that you guys do represents our church and represents Jesus. It wasn't very long after we had moved here that Tanner and I were involved in a car accident, and it was pretty scary. And we were okay, just some bruised ribs and stuff. But we were rushed in ambulances, and you guys were amazing. Tag was at a Bible study, so like a lot of people, the whole church was at the hospital, I don't know. Except for my dad's like, why didn't you call me? I was like, I was in the emergency room. I didn't think about it. But there were people, and I didn't even get to see y'all, but I heard that there were people there, and there was somebody there for Tanner, because he was in a room by himself, first time doing x-rays, and it was Jen. Jen was there with him, and Jen Norenberg was in the ambulance, and all these people were in the waiting room, and someone helped us out with the car, and just all these different things. And then as I'm healing at home, I'm given this plant by Debbie Elwell, actually, and a card that says, love, your church. And I have this plant, and this plant was bought by Debbie. This card got written by Debbie, but you know what it represented? It represented the whole church. And I felt so much love seeing that plant, thinking, this is my church family, and they love me. And so I just want to tell you that even though you're one person and you might be doing just one little action, that represents all of us. And it goes even further. That represents Jesus. Is that not cool? So I'm going to let Tag close, because that's it.
And we'll close in prayer. I pray you get to spend some great quality time with moms and family or whatever you get to do. And I pray the Lord goes with you and you take the Lord with you. Let us pray. Dear Lord, I thank you. I thank you for who you are. I thank you for this Mother's Day. I thank you for the opportunity to be family and to be a child of God, Lord. You are awesome. And so be with us today. Help us to sow the seeds. Help us to be the love that is out there. Be the hands and feet, Lord, and open our eyes to what you're doing so we can join you. Be with us, encourage us, strengthen us this day and this week. We love you, and everybody said, amen.